testimony and powerful events. And I am really happy to be here. And I wish that I could share more of my testimonies because so many things have been sparked by what's been said already. But I feel like I have been given a Jeremiah task. Yesterday, um, I was tasked with the morning blessing, and I felt that the scripture I was to share was from Jeremiah chapter 18, I believe, where he's told to go down to the potter's house. And the potter destroys the pot that he had started and starts a new pot. And I kind of feel like that is a message for us today, that we are the clay. And I also shared a quote from John O'Donohue in which he said that we are bodies of clay. And that clay comes to us with a mind from before, where it existed before, in his poetic way of saying things. And that has kind of sparked my attention and drawn me into Jeremiah. And in Lamentations, Jeremiah talks about his experience as an older senior citizen with dry skin and broken bones to deal with and other difficulties of being an aged person. And back a few months ago, we were talking about each evangelist taking a situation as dealing with children and youth and young adults and the different issues that we are facing as CCM. And I sat down in my prayer closet one afternoon with my candles and just became very quiet. And I felt that my role was to talk as a person, the person that I am. I just celebrated my 80th birthday last week with my family. And I wrote out some of my feelings and some of what I felt that God would say to us as senior citizens. And I think we have to recognize each age has its challenges. If you think back to being a baby and a 5-year-old or a teenager, each of those ages have specific challenges of learning new things, of coping with different situations. And then there's young adults and young marrieds and children and responsibilities and jobs. And I feel that there are some really deep challenges. And I feel sometimes we tend to gloss them over with, well, God's going to take care of us and everything's going to be okay. And I think we need to face some deep realities. And one of the deepest ones is that we are at the age that is now ready to join eternity, to leave this body of clay behind. And that is sometimes a difficult reality to face. And I know that for myself as a woman, I know when menopause began for me at age 54. And my body felt differently from that point on. And then I've seen more and more gray hair and other signs of the aging of my body. And so I want to read to you what I've written and then comment myself on some of this, and then open it up for discussion. Because as I look around, there aren't very many that are less than 55 in this group this afternoon. So I wrote, to my cherished and beloved children who are full of years, silver-haired, bald, or tinted, who no longer are fleet of step and or confined or constrained by physical limitations. Be assured of my continued love and presence. Your Heavenly Father is aware of your years of leadership, your concern and your caring for children and grandchildren, for the state of the world and the advancement of God's kingdom on earth. And I would think we would all be amazed. I look around here and I see pastors and people who have served years and years and years. We would be amazed if we each one wrote down and said how many years we had served as in roles in the church, even if it's church member and being present. But I feel that most of you that are on the screen with me have been in this for a long, long time. And I also think that we have, all of us, had concern, even though we may not be mothers or fathers, we've had concern for children and other people's grandchildren, or we've been teachers, or other things. And for the state of the world and the advancement of God's kingdom, these have been roles that we have worked hard to participate in. And many have been or are now caregivers for spouses, parents, and relatives, and that can be expanded. And in my own experience, I have been both a caregiver and a receiver of care, as I've broken my shoulder and broken a knee and been helpless to get dressed or cook or do those ordinary things. And then I have also been in the role of a caregiver to my dad. We shared my dad between my brother and I. Each one of us, Don and I, took half the week, and my brother and his wife took the other half of the week for the last 3 years. Well, they did it longer because they lived here in town, but it was, for us, it was the last 3 years. And I think caregiving role is one of the most difficult roles because so often it is so hard for the caregiver to watch and stand on the sidelines while their loved one is suffering. That has been my experience with Don, even though it was a very short time. It was a matter of almost weeks that he was failing. And yet I felt like I was truly standing at the foot of the cross. And rather than Jesus, it was Don on that cross. And I had to watch. That's a difficult experience to go through. God sees and knows your years of service and sacrifice as faithful members, Sunday school teachers, priesthood, pastors, and other church member roles. Your devoted use of time and talents is commended as you call to remembrance with deep thankfulness the faces and voices of all the lives you have embraced and given ministry to over the years. And here I'd like to just stop for a moment and let your mind go back, trace through and see some of the many faces that you have touched their life. Later, I'll talk about maybe the feelings that you've omitted something. But right now, spend a moment thinking about all those faces, all those people that you've come in contact with. Your expressions of caring, grace, and mercy are honored and praiseworthy. Continue to reach out as health, resources, and guidance permits. Do not hesitate to share knowledge, wisdom, and testimonies which you have gained throughout your faith walk in all contexts with youth and age. You have a rich heritage and treasury of experiences which will encourage others to action and response. Accept with grace and self-compassion the inevitability of failing health and limited capacity for daily tasks such as driving, decision-making, and household maintenance. And this is a difficult one. I used to spend hours in my yard and enjoyed so much cultivating flowers and tried to have something in bloom all year long. And now I'm just barely keeping it alive because I don't have the energy or the flexibility. I live on a hillside to maintain that yard the way I would like to. And that's just representative of other things that as we age, we need to be flexible enough to let go. Failing body systems, aging bones, and mental acuity may afflict and limit the ability to participate as fully and completely as in the past. Enjoy the lessening of responsibilities. Invite, allow, and encourage the younger generations to take places of greater responsibility and participation. Do not grieve over or regret your past. This was difficult for me when Don left. I would keep thinking, well, if Don were here, he could do that better. If Don were here, he would help me with that. And there came a point where I had to let go of that and just say, I'm doing the best I can. I am the one who is responsible now for the decision making. And I actually had a dream about that, in which Don, we were in a stationery store, and then the scene changed, and we were climbing up a hillside. And I recognized that Don could climb up so much faster than I could. But you know what? As I climbed, I recognized I was climbing up the same hill and making the same point in the end. And that was a graphic expression to me of the fact that I could let go of Don and the regret that he wasn't here with me. You are totally and fully accepted just as you are. Love and accept yourself as the beautiful soul, body, and spirit who is created in the very image and likeness of the Creator. And I would like to double underline that and put that in italics. We are accepted just as we are. We are loved and treasured by God just as we are. We don't have to regret anything in the past or feel like we're inadequate now or in the future. Be assured of the love, complete acceptance, and the comforting arms of your Heavenly Father are present now and always. This is a tough one. Do not fear the approaching death of the physical body. Rest in the sure knowledge that each of you has a special place, even a room in God's house, which is now being prepared by Jesus himself. You are God's beloved. You are a much beloved child of God, now, always, and forever. And I want to go back to that physical death because I think this is a place where we're in the strongest denial, where we want most for God to heal us and make our bodies back to the teenager, or make our bodies strong and full of energy like they were 40 years ago, when we could do so many things. But the only way, there's only a limited number of ways that we can graduate into eternity and leave this body behind. And I want to talk about those kind of graphically. And I'm sorry about that, but I feel very intensely that this is a point of denial for myself and for many others. And first of all, we've all experienced people who have left this life extremely suddenly in an accident, maybe a car, maybe they walked off a cliff, whatever it was, they were here this morning and now they're not here this evening. That's one way. Another way is to be the victim of violence. You can be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you can get shot, knifed, whatever. And another way is for a quick kind of illness that grabs you very fast and takes you there. That kind of was Don's experience. He was diagnosed with cancer and told the doctor couldn't do anything for him and thought we had 3 to 6 months. Well, I don't think it was even 2 weeks later that Don left. And then there are lingering illnesses that sometimes take us years for the body to let go of that spirit and leave. And then there are some that we know of that stayed here, the 3 Nephites. And John, the beloved, is said to have stayed. I don't think there, as I look around, any of us that quite qualify for that, but maybe that would be nice. And then there is also translation, like Elijah. Elijah was taken up to heaven in a fiery chariot. I think that just about covers the gamut of what it means to leave this body of clay behind. And I'm sorry to be so graphic, but I think that's our reality. And I think that there is a lot to be said for supporting each other and helping each other through these kinds of times. Because there are many hard places in growing older. And I want to, in closing my part and then opening this up for discussion, I want to share with you some words from Jeremiah. And this is words from Lamentations chapter 3. And Jeremiah has gone through a whole list of things and told God exactly how he's felt about being an old person. And he ends with, and this is Jeremiah, I can't read the little number, I think it's 18, chapter 3, 18 in Lamentations. He has made me grind my teeth on gravel. And I think Jeremiah is talking about having such bad food the flour was probably ground on stones and there was gravel in that he had broken teeth, or maybe he had no teeth. He has rolled me in the dust. Peace has been stripped away, and I have forgotten what prosperity is. I cried out, my splendor is gone. Everything I had hoped for from the Lord is lost. The thought of my suffering and homelessness is bitter beyond words. I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss. Yet I still dare to hope when I remember this. The unfailing love of the Lord never ends. By his mercies, we have been kept from complete destruction. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each day. I will say to myself, the Lord is my inheritance. Therefore, I will hope in him. And I would appreciate now sharing some of your experiences as you have aged, as you are at this point in life. Phil?
And then Lorenzo has his hand up as well.
Yeah.
And then Winnie.
I was just thinking as you were talking there, you know, the difference is between us all. We're from the same people. Every one of us, some are generations and generations and generations back. But if you go all the way back to Adam, we were all one people. And so over the generations, we as humans, we developed segregation in land, in places throughout. Some called them Celtic, some called them different things, English, some say, I'm glad I'm not Indian, you know, and all that, but you came from there. If you didn't, where'd you come from? Outer space? Came in on a flying saucer? No, you came from one people. And that was the people that God loved. God loved them. And he set out for them to achieve a work beyond measure. And that is a work to love one another. Very powerful. But it seems to be that the world is so segregated in all these different things. But I'm sorry to say, too bad, you're part Indian. Or you're part Adam. Every one of you got Indian in you. If you want to call them Indian, well, you got Adam in you. That's what we are. We're the people of Adam. We are all in the same pool together. And I tell you what, that's what we're going back to the precious gift of loving one another. That's what he keeps bringing us back to. Because you know why? It says, then he walked in the garden with Adam and Eve, and they talked. But there was a great separation put between them and God. And that was that they took of the knowledge of good and evil, and they saw that they were naked, and they hid from God. That's what the world's doing right now, hiding for what they are. But I tell you what, the Lord wants you to now, when you get your senses together, all 5 senses, as my sister has talked about, when you get them all together, then you're welcome to the tree of life. And thank the Lord that Jesus said he came. Thank him that he'd give us the way back to walking and talking with God.
Thank you, Phil. That is the hope that Jeremiah was alluding to.
Yes, we can do that at any age. Brother Lorenzo?
Well, one thing that Arlene is saying, and that God has told us all along, is that we are eternal. Even though this body dies, our spirit lives on forever. And we have to be encouraged by that. We have to believe in that. I've seen both sides. So I understand that. And I have that hope because I've been exposed to both sides. Some of us have yet to believe that we will go on to the other side. So we see death as something horrible. It's not. It's not. And I thank you, Arlene, for being a vessel to deliver this message. We need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorenzo. I appreciate your words. Winnie?
Arlena, I feel like what you said was directly for me. And that's what a blessing is supposed to be. Anybody who reads that blessing, that it should be directly for them. And that's the way I felt about it. Ever since I met you on Zoom, I felt like you and I had so much in common. And then when our husbands died, we had even more in common. And with our age range, we've got even more in common. And just, I was so looking forward to rooming with you at the CCM celebration. And that was just a joy. But now I still am with you, and you are with me. And I am so thankful that we've had this time together. And I can't wait to get that blessing so that I can sit alone with God and read it. Thank you so very much.
I don't know which was first, Steve or Scott, but
Steve Hatfield, or Joy.
Joy.
I'll get down. I've been standing up since I've been sitting so long, but thank you, Arlene. As difficult as it is as we've walked through this, I think what breaks my heart the most is I see so many of us cling to the things of this world, and we are to hold things loosely and let them go. And it's not just the body, it's the things that we've accumulated all our lives. And it has grieved my heart as I've had to help people walk through that. But the scriptures tell us we came into the world with nothing, we're going to leave with nothing. And so I think one of the things we've got to remember is what we've been given, let's share it. Let's give it away, because that we can't take it with us. And let's hold it so loosely that we can hear God's voice when he tells us it's time to give and to let go.
Thank you, Joy. Scott?
When I was pretty young, in my early 20s, I totaled a car, and I had that experience you always hear about with your life passing before your eyes. And well, it didn't take very long for me, but all I knew was I was very thankful for the life that I had been given. And I really was surprised when that little experience was over and I was still here. So, you know, I've never feared death, but I've never thought a whole lot about it. But something touched me really deeply that you said, Arlene, and it may not have been anything at all that was the focus for you, but when you said Jesus was there preparing my place. And I can't think of anyone that I would trust more. And how exciting it is. I think I think I'll have a really good game room and a big library. And that a lot of you will be in my neighborhood. So I'm in no hurry. although some days, um, are less fun than other days in this life. I want every day that God has for me here. But I really thank you for something about that statement really brought joy to my heart, that it's my Jesus that's preparing the room for me. Thank you.
I thank you, Scott. That's from John 14. I'm going away to prepare a place for you, and that he promises to come back again. And some of the modern translations say a room rather than a mansion. Eldon, I see your hand up.
Yes, Arlene, thank you. I feel I should share a little bit with you. I have a nice friend in the church. We've been friends for quite a number of years. And I'm going to share with you in time how he winds up hurting very, very badly right now with loneliness. I can't help him, and I can't say anything because he would undoubtedly take it as some type of indictment. But I found with my wife, Grace, she doesn't have the ability to walk more than about 3 steps. When all of this was found out, the doctors were constantly trying to persuade me to do something else because at 87, they didn't feel like that I was going to be capable of taking care of her. Well, we had a very interesting experience. I'll tell you right off the bat that I asked Jesus to help me to have the strength to do whatever was necessary. I didn't ask for it, but I got also the awareness that we as people, as human beings, we have our bodies with needs that must be handled. The waste in our bodies is not something we can run away from, pay little attention to, forget, or anything. It must be handled. The funny part was that the last time that Grace was in the hospital, why, I got in there early in the morning, and a few hours after I got there, she was when I got there, she was out of the bed, sitting in the chair. And a couple hours later, she was pretty tired and she wanted to go back to bed. So I walked into the nurse's station and I told them that she would like to go back to bed. And they said, okay, we'll be there in just a little bit. We'll just be there just a little bit. So I went back and we waited, and Grace got tireder and tireder, and we kept waiting. And finally there was a little old Oriental woman that she came in. She hardly got inside the room and she looked around behind to see, I guess, it looked to me like she was looking back, well, who's going to help me? And there wasn't anybody there. All of the nurses were gone doing something. And I'm sure that what they were doing was very important. Okay, so I wanted to relieve her, and I walked up to her and I told her, I said, I don't want to get in your way. I don't want to violate any rules, but I put her to bed. I take care of her all the time. I can put her in bed myself. You just let me. And she said, okay. And at that, I started put Grace back in the bed. And she said, no, wait. And so I stopped, and she decided that something else had to be done. We had to get Grace to another different position to go into bed. When she got that all arranged, she asked me, she says, how's that? And I said, well, that's fine, except there's no room for me. Oh, she recognized what I'd said. This happened 4 times that she had put a stop to it. And finally, all of a sudden, she I don't know how she saw it, but she saw a younger male orderly coming down the hall. And she ran out and she stopped him. And while she's talking to him, trying to get him to stop and help, I picked her up and put her in bed. The little old lady, she turned around and she saw that. And then this was on a Friday. Saturday, I go back in there and all of a sudden, everything's changed. Now I'm being told that she's going to be released from the hospital that morning. Process is all in order. And finally, the word came back to me. This little old Oriental woman practically went all over the hospital telling them how I put my wife back in bed. And the doctors gave up telling me I couldn't do it. But the main thing I really want to bring to your awareness, if you're a caregiver, or if you ever become a caregiver, or if you have a good friend that's a caregiver, I'd like to tell you some principles that are vital to your health, your welfare, and happiness. And I'll share a testimony as to why this is true. First of all, I'd like for you to get a big contractor's plastic bag. Have some available. Second, I'd like for you to get some kind of a 5-gallon can that has a lid that you can put in the bathroom. Then I'd like for you to get another container, possibly a gallon ice cream can, and put that in the bathroom. Then I'd like to go to the store and buy about 3 dozen nice, clean, white washcloths and a bottle of bleach. And then I'd like for you to make the resolve that you're going to set your time clock 24/7, that about every 3 or 4 hours, you're going to check to see if the one you have to care for needs a bathroom break. And don't expect them to always know. The older we get, the less we become aware of the emergencies that can descend upon us. Having said that, I'll tell you right quick. Do you remember back in the pandemic when toilet paper was in short supply?
Eldon, we're running over time. I'm sorry.
Yes, you're right, and that I've done it again.
But well, that's okay. We appreciate your sharing.
Yes,
It
I
is-
do very much, and it's very hard being a caregiver.
Well, I got one thing left to say, and I'll tell you very quickly. This friend of mine, he tried taking care of his wife, but he wasn't organized. He didn't have anything prepared. He didn't give any time for timing. He didn't make sure that she was able to go to a bathroom when she needed to. And he got absolutely furious when he had to clean up. And you know, every time he got furious, he made her feel less and less wanted or needed or loved. And finally, he reached a point where he says, I can't take it anymore. And he went out and he found a place to take her. And he did take her. He took her there for 1 week. And in the morning, they called him and said, she passed away.
It's a
She
very
couldn't-
sad story.
She couldn't endure not being wanted. Thank you.
Steve,
Oh, thank you, Arlene. Thank you so much for helping us walk through some of these pages. You are correct. We have overstayed our time. We will reassemble. Hold on, I'll look. As we had done. Okay, hold on. 6:45. 6:45, praise and worship. We'll come back then. Sorry, my brain just took a vacation. Thanks to everyone. Arlene, thank you.